Alright. I've rewritten this 3 times already. I'm not proud of what I'm about to say, but I'm also tired of pretending it didn't happen. This was years ago, but it still shows up in my head at 2 a.m. when the house is quiet and I can't sleep. I was a drug courier. Not a kingpin. Not some cartel mastermind. Just a guy who said yes when he should have said no. And the worst part? I told myself it was. For the last time. That's how it always starts, I guess. Back then, I was 27, broke, and running on bad decisions. I dropped out of college, bounced between warehouse jobs, and was drowning in debt I didn't want to admit I had. Credit cards, personal loans, borrowed money from friends. My car was on the verge of repossession. I remember calculating how much gas I had left like it was a survival strategy. The first time I did a run, it felt almost harmless. A favor for someone I knew from high school. Quick trip. Easy cash. No violence. No drama. Just transport. That's the word we used to make it feel clean. By the time this story happened, I had already done a few trips. And I had sworn after the last one that I was done. But then my phone rang. It was Mark. Not his real name, obviously. He was one of those guys who always seemed calm, too calm. Like he knew something about the world the rest of us didn't. He didn't threaten. He didn't pressure. He just presented opportunities. Simple run, he said. In and out. Good payout. Last one. I actually laughed when he said that. Last one had become a joke between us. But this time, I meant it. I had a plan. Take the money. Pay off the car. Clear 2 credit cards. Get stable. Walk away clean. That's the lie I told myself, anyway. Looking back, I don't think I ever believed I was in control. I just liked pretending I was. And that's where this particular story begins, with me standing in my tiny apartment kitchen, staring at my cracked countertop, phone in hand, telling Mark. Yeah. I'll do one more. The job sounded simple on paper. Drive from my city to a neighboring state, pick up a package, bring it back. No flying, no borders, no dramatic handoffs in parking garages at midnight. Just a straight highway run. That's how they make it sound safe. Mark told me the payout up front. $5,000. Cash. Half after pickup, half on delivery. That was more money than I made in a month at the warehouse. My brain didn't even register the risk at first, it just saw numbers solving problems. I asked what I was carrying. He paused. Just product. Nothing crazy. That pause stuck with me. I didn't press further. That was part of the unspoken agreement. The less you know, the better. The pickup was scheduled for Friday afternoon. Broad daylight. Looks normal, he said. Normal is good. I remember hanging up and feeling that familiar split inside me, half terrified, half electric. Like stepping onto a roller coaster you can still back out of. I didn't back out. Once I said yes, something in me switched from fear to logistics. Planning made it feel less like a crime and more like a project. First thing I did was clean my car. And I mean obsessively clean it. Vacuumed under the seats, wiped down every surface, threw out old receipts, anything that could look suspicious or just messy. I didn't want to give a cop any reason to look twice. Broken taillight? Fixed. Registration? Renewed the next morning. I even practiced driving exactly the speed limit, which felt unnatural. Mark told me the package would already be sealed and hidden when I got it. You won't have to do anything, he said. That wasn't comforting. I bought a cheap prepaid phone and memorized the number he gave me for the contact. I didn't save it. Didn't write it down. I felt like I was in some low-budget crime movie. At night, though, when the planning stopped, reality crept in. $5,000. Or a felony. And somehow, I was still choosing the money. Friday came faster than I wanted it to. I barely slept the night before. Every worst-case scenario played in my head like a highlight reel, flashing lights in my rearview mirror, my parents getting a call from jail, my mugshot floating around online. But when morning actually arrived, everything looked normal. The sun was out. People were walking dogs. Someone was mowing their lawn. It felt surreal that I was about to commit a felony on such an ordinary day. I left around noon. Less suspicious than driving at night, Mark had said. Just another guy on the highway. For the first hour, I kept checking my mirrors like I was already being followed. Every police car I passed made my pulse spike. I forced myself to breathe evenly, to keep both hands on the wheel, to not look nervous, as if someone could sense guilt from the next lane. The closer I got to the pickup location, the heavier everything felt. It wasn't the drive that scared me. It was what I'd be driving back with. The address led me to a quiet suburban neighborhood. Not some sketchy warehouse or abandoned lot. Actual houses. Trimmed lawns. A kid's bike lying on the sidewalk. That almost made it worse. I parked across the street like I was visiting a friend. My hands were sweating so badly I had to wipe them on my jeans before getting out. The instructions were simple. Knock twice, wait, say, "I'm here for the tools." I rehearsed it in my head walking up the driveway. A middle-aged guy answered the door. Completely average. Cargo shorts, baseball cap, faint smell of barbecue drifting from inside the house. He looked me up and down, not suspicious, just measuring. "You here for the tools?" he asked first. I nodded. He stepped aside without another word. Inside, the house looked painfully normal. Family photos. TV playing in the background. Somewhere down the hall, I heard a woman laughing. He handed me a medium-sized duffel bag. "Don't open it," he said quietly. I didn't. I walked out holding 5 years in prison in my right hand. The bag didn't look like much. Just a faded black duffel, the kind you'd take to the gym. But when I picked it up, the weight surprised me. Not just physically, though it was heavier than I expected, but mentally. It felt like gravity had shifted. I put it in the trunk exactly the way Mark instructed. Tucked under an old blanket. Spare tire compartment slightly lifted to make it look messy but normal. I closed the trunk slowly, like slamming it would somehow attract police from miles away. Back in the driver's seat, I just sat there for a minute. This was the point of no return. Before pickup, I could have driven home and lied about car trouble. After this, I was carrying evidence. I pulled out of the neighborhood, forcing myself not to speed. Every bump in the road made me imagine the bag shifting, tearing open, spilling something illegal and irreversible. My ears rang with every passing siren, even ones blocks away. I kept telling myself, it's just a drive. But it wasn't just a drive anymore. About 40 minutes into the return trip, it happened. I saw red and blue lights in my rearview mirror. My stomach dropped so fast it felt like I'd missed a step on a staircase. For a split second, I couldn't breathe. My brain went completely blank, then flooded with noise. This is it. You're done. The police car was 2 lanes over at first. I tried to act natural, steady speed, eyes forward, no sudden movements. My palms were slick against the steering wheel. I could actually hear my heartbeat in my ears. Then the cruiser merged behind me. Directly behind me. Every paranoid thought I'd ever had condensed into that moment. I pictured being pulled out of the car, the trunk opening, the bag exposed. Headlines. My parents' faces. Mark disappearing like he never existed. I started mentally rehearsing lies. I borrowed the car. I didn't know. It's not mine. But deep down, I knew none of it would matter. The cruiser followed me for what felt like 10 years. Then, it switched lanes. And passed me. I don't think I've ever felt relief like that in my life. After the police car passed me, I should have just kept driving. Straight home. No stops. But anxiety does weird things to logic. About an hour from my city, my fuel light blinked on. I'd calculated it earlier and thought I'd be fine, but all the tension must have burned more gas than I expected. I debated pushing it. The idea of stopping anywhere felt insane, but running out on the shoulder with that bag in my trunk felt worse. So I pulled into a random gas station off the highway. Big mistake. As I stood there pumping gas, I felt exposed. Every person looked suspicious. A guy in a pickup glanced at me twice. Or maybe I imagined it. A woman wrangling her kids kept looking toward my car. I was sure they somehow knew. Inside the store, I bought a bottle of water just to look normal. The cashier made small talk about the weather. I could barely form sentences. My voice sounded distant, like it belonged to someone else. When I walked back out, I saw something that froze me. A police SUV pulling into the lot. The police SUV rolled in slow, like it had all the time in the world. I swear the sound of gravel under its tires echoed in my skull. For a second, I genuinely considered just getting in my car and speeding off, which, thankfully, the rational part of my brain immediately shut down. That's how people guarantee getting caught. So I forced myself to walk normally. Not fast. Not slow. Just normal. The officer parked near the entrance of the store. He didn't look at me at first. He just stepped out, stretched, adjusted his belt. Completely casual. Meanwhile, I felt like my skin was buzzing. I unlocked my car and got in, trying not to slam the door. My hands were shaking so badly I had to grip the steering wheel with both of them to steady myself. The officer finally glanced in my direction. Our eyes met. It lasted maybe half a second. But in that half second, I was convinced he could see everything, the bag, the lies, the fear. He looked away. And walked inside. I didn't start the engine right away. That's what paranoia does. It traps you between movement and stillness. If I left too quickly, would that look suspicious? If I waited, would that look worse? I counted to 10. Then 20. Then told myself I was overthinking it. I started the car. As I pulled out of the gas station, I checked my mirrors so many times it probably looked more suspicious than if I hadn't checked at all. The police SUV was still there. No lights. No sudden moves. But for the next 30 miles, I was certain he would appear behind me again. Every car that merged onto the highway felt like a threat. A dark SUV in my blind spot made my chest tighten. I kept imagining some invisible system had already flagged me, some silent alert that I didn't even know existed. The worst part wasn't the risk anymore. It was the isolation. No one in the cars around me knew what I was carrying. To them, I was just another commuter. And I had never felt more alone. By the time I reached my city, it was early evening. Traffic was thicker now, brake lights stretching endlessly ahead. Normally I hated rush hour, but that day it felt like camouflage. The drop-off location had changed last minute. That alone made my pulse spike. Instead of the usual parking garage, Mark texted an address in an industrial area near the river. New spot. Quick handoff, the message read. I hated changes. The warehouse looked half abandoned. Faded sign, broken windows on the upper level. I parked where instructed and waited. 2 minutes later, a gray sedan pulled up beside me. The driver didn't get out. He just popped his trunk. No words exchanged. I stepped out, opened my trunk, grabbed the duffel, and walked it over. My legs felt stiff, mechanical. The man barely glanced at me as he transferred the bag to his car. He handed me an envelope through the window. Drive safe, he said flatly. And that was it. No drama. No weapons. Just silence and money. I didn't open the envelope right away. I drove 3 blocks, turned twice, then parked under a flickering streetlight like I was in some cliché crime movie. My hands were still shaking when I finally tore it open. Stacks of cash. Rubber-banded. Thick. I counted it twice. 5,000. Exactly what was promised. For a moment, the fear faded. Replaced by something uglier, satisfaction. Relief. validation. All that anxiety, all that risk, and here it was, tangible, solving my problems in one heavy envelope. That's the dangerous part. Crime pays. At least in the short term. I sat there imagining my debts shrinking. My car safe from repossession. Bills paid. I even felt proud of myself for pulling it off without incident. But underneath that pride was something else. A quiet realization that I'd just crossed another line, and it had felt easier than the last time. That scared me more than the police lights ever did. Because if it was this easy, why would I ever stop? I thought it was over. That's the thing about these clean jobs, you expect a finish line. You expect relief to stick around. The next morning my phone rang. Not the prepaid one. My personal phone. That alone made my stomach drop. It was Mark. "Everything went smooth?" he asked casually. "Yeah," I said. "We're done, right?" There was a pause. Not long, just long enough. "Mostly," he replied. Mostly. Apparently, there had been increased highway patrol activity along part of my route. Nothing had happened to me, but someone else, another courier, had been pulled over that same day. Different direction. Same shipment batch. He didn't say the word arrested. He didn't have to. "Your name wasn't attached to anything," Mark assured me. "You're good. You're good." I hung up feeling anything but good. For the first time, the reality hit me. If that officer at the gas station had decided to ask a few questions, I wouldn't be sitting in my apartment counting money. I'd be sitting in a cell that I couldn't stop thinking about the other guy. I didn't know his name. Didn't know his face. But I knew he'd said yes to the same easy run I had. And he'd been the unlucky one. That realization messed with me more than the fear ever did. I kept replaying the moments from the day before. The police cruiser passing me, the SUV at the gas station, the eye contact with that officer. All those coin flip seconds where things could have gone differently. It wasn't skill that saved me. It was chance. The money sat on my kitchen table for 2 days before I deposited any of it. I couldn't even look at it without feeling a knot in my stomach. Every siren outside made me freeze. Every knock at my door sent a spike of panic through me. I started snapping at people. Avoiding friends. Sleeping badly. $5,000 had solved my debt problem. But it created something worse. For the first time, I didn't feel clever. I felt disposable that I never did another run after that. Not because I suddenly grew a moral backbone overnight. If I'm being honest, it was fear. Pure, selfish fear. The randomness of it all broke the illusion for me. I wasn't smart. I wasn't careful. I was lucky. And luck runs out. I paid off my car. Cleared most of my debt. On the outside, it looked like I'd fixed my situation. But something in me had shifted. I saw how easily I justified crossing lines when money was tight. How quickly adrenaline could drown out common sense. That scared me more than jail ever did. I don't glamorize it when I tell this story. There was no cinematic moment, no dramatic chase. Just anxiety, isolation, and the constant knowledge that one routine traffic stop could have rewritten my entire life. If you're reading this and thinking about doing just one quick job to solve your problems, don't. Easy money has hidden costs. And sometimes the only reason you think you got away with it is because someone else didn't.